Alright, this is my 1991 Buick Riviera, and for a few years now, the check engine light has been on when I start the car, and I'm not going to start the car now, nor am I going to go for a ride, because we're just going to watch the check engine light stay on, and it will go off as soon as the engine hits normal operating temperature. Then that check engine light will go off, and it'll stay off for the rest of the drive. However, the car's decided to kind of change its behavior, and now it has decided to show up in the middle of driving it. Now, I don't drive this car but just once a year when it's registered, so which is why it still only has, well, I can hear the air suspension now, 70,000 miles on it. But I've noticed that the check engine light, when it comes on, if I'm going on the highway and I floor it, it will turn off afterward, and it'll stay off the whole time. Anyway, it's really hard. This is a 3.8 liter Series 1 engine, and it's really hard to find how to diagnose these cars. And so I did the whole paperclip thing in the computer. I think that's it, if I'm looking or even focusing in the right spot. Yeah, and there's YouTube videos on how to do that, how to check the computer, and it's throwing a code for the knock sensor. And I have a Chilton's or a Haynes, and this car being a 91, apparently according to that book, anything 1988 and older, the knock sensor was right here below the intake and next to this exhaust. But this car being a 91, they decided to move the knock sensor, and this is a Series 1. So it only has one knock sensor, and that knock sensor is down there and right there. Now that's that mirror. That's my wife's makeup mirror. There's the oil filter, and according to the manual, when they moved it from over there, they said it's right back here above the right axle. Of course, I'm kind of looking around, and there's another sensor there, and then there's another sensor down there, and then voila, I felt around, and there's the wire, or the wire coming off this knock sensor. And oops, I'm gonna run out of hands now. And the wire that you use is right there. Now this wire, you have to, let me back up my focus. And hang on, I gotta pause this. Alright, now I got the camera and the light better. Okay, so this wire comes off, and you have to pinch, hang on, the camera wants to focus on the other thing. You have to pinch this right here to release these outer edges. And I found a YouTube video, finally one, that says how to get this off. Because first off, you're reaching way up underneath the engine. You're blind. You're trying to, and maybe it would be better if I came from underneath the car. But this has worked out well so far. Anyway, the YouTube video I watched is like, now be careful, because this is fragile, it's delicate plastic, it's been exposed to heat, because it is kind of by the exhaust. And what do? I, of course, you're just pinching it, and it broke, that right there. But it came off. Anyway, I went to Pep Boys. I got a new one of these and a new knock sensor. So, well, I'm going to go ahead and see what we can do. I want to actually see if replacing, oh, I think I moved the mirror. Yeah, it got bumped, so I can't see the knock sensor. Anyway, I'm going to see if replacing this knock sensor takes care of this check engine light. So stay tuned. Alright, so here's the new knock sensor. That little plastic clip I just showed you. It literally just clips on there and the wire feeds into that. And that goes into the block. Now the way I understand this, and it looks like it already comes with that sealant stuff on there, because the few videos I've watched on these say, I'm mostly making this video because there's nothing out there on where the knock sensor is on this car. And these Series 1 3.8 liters with the OBD1s, there's not a lot of coverage on them, and so maybe it'll help somebody. Anyway, here's this. I'm going to go ahead and I went and bought some elbows and stuff like that, but that just slips right on there and that comes off. And what I'm using, I know sometimes people in videos, and this looks like a 7/8. I know it's so big that I got to get an elbow because it took like the next level of socket here, and it's so big it hits the firewall. Anyway, okay, we'll see how this goes. All right, so I've climbed on top of the engine and we're looking down at that knock sensor, and if I reach up underneath here, I've already loosened it with the ratchet. Okay, and then there we go. There's that old knock sensor. Oh, as I get off the engine. Okay, there we go. Oh. It's got some oil on it. Kind of makes me curious. I don't know a lot about these things. I'm pretty sure people will chime in on the comments. I know it obviously senses for a knock on the engine, and the way I understand it, it retards the spark. Alright, let's go ahead and get the new one in there. Alright, now I figured I would show you for what it's worth, what you can see. Now mind you, what you're looking at is upside down underneath the engine, even though we're sitting up top. That's where the old knock sensor was. That's your oil filter, and of course that's the steering rack right there. Exhaust. Where's the, oh, there's the O2. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get the new knock sensor in there. Alright, I'm gonna reach up around and let's see if I can get the new knock sensor up inside of here. Maybe I'll have to come back on this. Oh yeah, it goes right there. Oh, if I come up underneath here, that'll be a lot better. Alright, I gotta make sure I'm threading this right. So I think we will pause and come back. Alright, so I've got the start of that being threaded. Alright, now I gotta just tighten it up. Alright, the new knock sensor is in. Now, where'd that wire go? Oh, there it is down there. All the way down there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here, as I have the new here. And the raw end, and then I bought some heat shrink to go ahead and make what is hopefully a watertight connection. I've never done this before, so here we go. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the wire on this. And this is the old one. I better look at it. This wire, this clip comes around. The wire is wrapped around there. But this one's no good because it's cracked there. And then this new one, the wire isn't wrapped around like that. Actually, how they have it, this wire came around like just like that. I busted the clip off. So that's how they have it manufactured wise, is to come around and clip like that. Okay. Alright, so there's the manufacturers, and that was in the space you have to try to strip this insulation off this wire, and then that's what GM has provided us with as far as the amount of copper wire running through that versus the aftermarket one. And look at all the copper wire. Whoops. If we can get it to focus. Look at all the copper wire on this. How do we just pull this out here? Anyway, we get the idea. Alright, I've got the two tied together. I'll spare you my crude tie together, but that's the heat shrink before I shrink it before we get in a cold pool, right? Alright, we'll be back in a second. Alright, so we've got that heat shrunk. Of course, the edges won't shrink to make a complete seal, so I used some electrical tape, which I hate that stuff because it doesn't last for the long haul, but I did heat it a little bit. And that does look like it has a pretty good seal. So, alright, so we're going to go ahead and, where's the end of this thing? Oh, clip that to the, my wife's makeup mirror fill. So now it sits underneath the car. But, look at this. Maybe, oh yeah, it's way underneath there. Okay. Alright, well, we'll clip this up and see what happens. Alright, so there's the new sensor down there. I got my wife's mirror back. And there's the wiring. It goes on the other side of this wiring harness, or the new wiring, because it is sitting out a little bit from this wiring harness. But it's sitting on the right side of it, because right there, that silver piece you see is the heat shield. The exhaust. So that's how close all this is. In fact, if you look at that harness, the plastic sheathing deteriorated a little bit with me messing with it. There's another sensor down there. If I remember correctly in the manual, that's the speed sensor. Don't quote me on that, because there's another sensor over here on this side of the engine, but very close to that knock sensor, which you can just barely see the tip of there. Anyway, let me go ahead and retrieve my wife's mirror, and then we'll start this thing up and see if we have... Well, I got to clear the codes first and then start it up. Alright, so I guess there was I thought there was a fancy way of clearing the codes by doing it through the OBD1, but apparently not. We just unhook the battery. Got the negative. I haven't loosened the positive. So I guess I'll go ahead and do that after quite a bit of looking. This seems to be the blue collar way to do it, and that's fine because I don't have a scanner to clear the codes. It So we'll let this sit here for a minute, and I guess people are telling me to go honk my horn, which won't work because there's no power, and turn my lights on and all kinds of other things to drain any power out of anything that might be left. So that's what I'm gonna do, so just pretend you see me doing that. Alright, we've got our high-tech tool, which is a paper clip here in the OBD1 plugged into, I don't know if we can see that up top, into A and B to go ahead and jump those two. So next I will go ahead and turn the key, because I've already taken the battery out or undid it, and we'll see if we've cleared the codes. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and turn the key, and we're going to get a 1 and a 1, 2. And I'll do it 3 times. So here's the second time. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. And that's just the system saying, it's acknowledging that we're in there. And then our code should come. But we just keep flashing a 1 and a 1, 2. And it'll keep doing this and doing this, which means we've cleared our codes. So hopefully when we start the car, our check engine light will not come on with our new knock sensor. Alright, I've taken out the paper clip. I've safely stowed my really important tool right here in case I need it in the future. That way it's not in there when we go to start the car. Alright, I just got out and checked to make sure nothing was left in the engine bay that might get caught up. So we're going to go ahead and start it up. And usually after a few minutes of running, and it's still cold, which, see, the exterior temperature is 74. And we're going to see, I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with a long video, but we're going to let the car run here for a while and see if that fixed the problem. Alright, so we're a couple of minutes into this run. Our temperature is coming up, far from normal. Well, you know what I'm saying. Still no check engine light. And what this car would normally do at this point is, you didn't have to be in the car. You could be outside and know that that check engine light came on, because the engine kind of almost stumbled. And it wouldn't ever stall, but it would, you could hear it change. And it almost acted as if it was making some adjustments to things, and then it would straighten right back out and run as smooth as possible. The exhaust, the car passes emissions just fine as long as that light isn't on. It doesn't smell foul. I mean, right now you have that just start your car kind of smell until the catalytic converter starts taking care of that. But this seems to have fixed the problem so far. We're gonna get out on the road here in a minute and see what we get from there. Alright, so she's been running for probably a little over 5 minutes now. Very smooth, very quiet. Not that she ever ran rough before. No, we're at normal operating temperature now, which is about where she would normally want to turn off the check engine light. We'd probably wait just probably another minute before it normally would, but it still has not kicked on. All right, we're going to get in and go for a ride. All right. Okay, let's... Yeah, we're on the verge of Getting a little low on fuel. Let's get some air movement. I don't think we need the air conditioner on though. Well, I would say that it's been a success as far as this random check engine light. Because it came on every time you started the car, but it would go off after, like I already said, normal operating temperature had been achieved. And there was a random flickering of it. Definitely would have occurred by now. The car's been running for a while. And the thing is you think what kicks these lights on or is something that would affect the exhaust or the performance, but that knock sensor doesn't do a lot other than like what I already said. So it makes sense, but a light on the dash will fail your emissions if you're in an area that requires emissions, and I am. All right. Okay, I guess we're gonna go park it and call it good. Thanks, you guys.